Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Emotional intelligence. Most men today are being accused of lacking emotional intelligence. And somehow, by the opposite, people believe that women have emotional intelligence just because they are emotional creatures. Let's correct these issues. Because while emotional intelligence is important, and in a world where people mostly focus on IQ and not EQ, the intelligence quotient and not the emotional quotient, it is very important to explain this from an Islamic perspective. So, Bismillah. Emotionality is important. It doesn't mean you cry your head out and you're weak and so on. It's about knowing how to manage your emotions, how to be stoic, but also how to interpret certain situations, not only from an intellectual perspective, but also from an emotional perspective when you combine the two. Separating the two could be important. However, the two have to go hand in hand, especially for a man who has the ability to supersede his emotions through his intellect. That's somehow the way Allah created him. Now, women also have the ability to supersede their emotions through their intellect. However, it's not on the level of men. This is something that the Prophet clearly described in the hadith about naqasat. And he has explained it as to why. And when you look at female nature throughout the centuries, it is very, very evident. But looking at emotional intelligence is extremely important to assess situations that require, obviously, emotionality. Now, in everything in the world, there has to be an element of emotion. When you're dealing with someone, with your spouse, for example, there has to be an element of emotion. When you're dealing with your children, even at work, even in everything that you're doing, emotions are extremely important. But because emotions are abstract, they're hard to assess. And what I want to address in this video, and inshallah, I will be doing an emotional intelligence course, bi'idhnillah ta'ala, that will released on Gabriel Romaani as well as on the Muslim Alpha. But what I'm going to focus in this video is how do we assess that, and why do women accuse men of not having emotional intelligence? And in that accusation, there's definitely some truth because modern Muslim men are quite weak in their emotions. And weakness in emotion is not the absence of emotion, but it is about not controlling them and sometimes acting very, very feminine in the outbursts. While women could be excused, could be. I'm not saying that it's necessarily an excuse for them to misbehave, but could be understood. The world will never really tolerate men who are weak like that and just allow their emotions to dictate their actions and maybe their actions to be destructive in their family, their lives, their livelihood, and so on, even in their deen. But how do we get that? How do we do that? How do we assess that if a man has the EQ, if a man has emotional intelligence? Is it really just up to women to follow again their feelings and say, yes, I believe this, my husband is emotionally present? Because one of the main accusations that I hear as a Muslim counselor is that my husband doesn't have the emotional intelligence and emotional presence. And I always ask the sisters, says who? How do you know? How did you assess that? And they're like, well, I feel it or I don't. He's not present. I'm like, what do you mean? Where is he? Is he outside? Is he inside? No, he's here, but he's not present. Why not? What dictates that? Is that he's always on his phone and never paying attention, or that he's only sometimes on his phone? Maybe you caught him just being on his phone and you're trying to talk to him at the wrong time. That does not mean that he doesn't have emotional intelligence. He's not emotionally present. He doesn't feel you and doesn't understand you. But this accusation has been pushed really, really tough and hard by society, by social media libtards. That's been really, really messed with women's heads to always make some of the same accusations towards their husbands. He's not emotionally present. He's a narcissist. He's egocentric. He's selfish. He's this, he's that. 4 or 5 things that we keep hearing on social media, especially from these divorced sisters or the mutabarrijat online who are now self-declared coaches or, whatever, divorce coaches, you name it. So emotional intelligence is more complicated than that, and it's very abstract and it's hard to just measure. Indeed, a man, if he follows the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ and he implements Islam, he will develop that emotional intelligence that he needs, that compassion, that rahmah, and that mercy that he needs to have in every single case that he would have. That doesn't mean you have to cry at every point. It actually sometimes about holding your tears back and about being able to show a strength that is needed to guide your family and to show no doubt and wavering and so on. Families need to see that. So emotional intelligence is not just a man being able to just listen to the complaints of a woman or to give a shoulder for a woman to cry. No, it is about knowing how to control feelings and emotions in specific situations, when to give that shoulder for a woman to cry on, and when to withhold it. And that is also part of emotional intelligence. However, sisters, I would say, and to everyone, the criteria for measuring that is not how a woman feels. Definitely not. Especially in an abstract situation like that. Definitely not. So let us stop blaming men for being not present, emotional intelligence, lacking all that. And let us try to understand this issue a bit more, as I will be explaining it more in my course, inshallah. Let me know what you think in the comments and check out the links in the description. Barakallahu fikum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.